That should work okay. Hey, folks, thanks for joining the meeting. We'll give a few more minutes to others that are working on getting through the link. Can someone give me a sign of life to confirm you can hear me?
Hey, Zach, this is Jane. I can hear you.
Hey, Gene, thank you. Thank you, Robert, as well. Today's kind of going to be a bit of a low-key meeting. We've been at this every other month through the year. The year in review gives me an opportunity to think back on what we've talked about, what we've accomplished through these meetings over the last year, and just to kind of further some of the discussion. So thank you, everybody, for joining. The kind of flavor of today's meeting is going to be just going through the overview of the year with regards to the hemp report and related to research, related to the commercial efforts across the state. And then also one of the things folks did when they registered for the meeting was to provide some questions about the industry. And so I've been able to collect those, and I'll spend some time summarizing those today. So we'll get started at 1:05. And in the meantime, once again, thank you, everybody, for your participation this year, for your interest in this topic. At 1:05, I will resume the summaries that I promised. Hi, everybody. We had a couple more folks show up. Thank you, Marcos, for introducing yourself. You got a habit of things. Certainly, folks are welcome to be active in the chat window. As I'm mentioning anything, you're welcome to drop a question there in the chat. You are welcome to touch your raise hand button. Again, today's a bit of a more informal day. I'm just going to kind of speak to the topics of interest, topics of concern that have been brought to me over the last year, and specifically to the questions leading up today's meeting. And with that, it is 1:05, so we'll get started. Of course, just want to make sure everybody feels welcome to be here. Welcome to participate if you'd like. Please do so respectfully. And of course, this is meant to engender some thoughtful and constructive discussion. So I'm Zach Brim, UF IFAS Hemp Program, and this is the sixth of six meetings that we've been having every other month through the course of the year. These informational meetings have aligned with what will become a table of contents for a producer's guide, the sorts of things that are common across IFAS for the majority of our crops. Of course, hemp being a new one to the list, we've been working hard to get that information out. And so those meetings that we have been having over the course of the year set out to do just that from a presentation and discussion perspective. Next year's effort is going to be working to get those meetings and the content there that we talked through, had a dialogue this year on into a written form so that farmers out there in the state can take advantage of that information. Of course, the meetings that we've had are also available on recording in a couple different places. The Hemp program has a YouTube channel, and there's also the events page where you folks may have been able to find the event link, and then also the recordings there. So we'll be distributing out that information to folks that have participated this year. So if you can't find it right away, don't worry. I should have access to your email address, and we'll be sending you that information in the meantime. So just to summarize the year of those meetings, we had the first meeting over the permitting and planning. One of the unique aspects of hemp as a crop in the United States, specifically in Florida, is that it is a regulated commodity, recently defined an agricultural commodity, of course, as cannabis sativa less than 0.3% THC. And given that designation from a legal perspective, that leaves a regulatory framework to be able to manage that legally across the state. And so you got to get your permits and a number of things that are associated with that, the fingerprints, the draft of an environmental containment plan, the GPS coordinates, the plan that you do. So that's where we started, and that'll be the same start for a hemp production guide. Then we moved into the planting and the nutrient management. We talked a bit about diseases. We talked a bit about products and harvesting. And so starting at that farm gate, accessing seeds, bringing it all the way through the other side where we're harvesting and distributing a product back through the gate. That's sort of where my focus of effort has been. Of course, a lot of this discussion has played out the breadth of a hemp industry across the state. And so we'll try to cover some of that. In the meantime, if you do have a burning question that you don't think you had a chance to ask in the registration, or you have no idea what I'm talking about and just want to ask a question anyways, go ahead and put it in the chat. I am going to share my screen briefly just to start with our year in review. I pulled some numbers together for the acreage report and the harvest report for Florida. And then I'm going to spend the rest of the meeting going through those questions that folks have asked thus far. And if there's sort of any voice from the participants, you'd like to share an experience, or you have another question, please feel free to chime in. And then maybe just before we leave, so as you're thinking about how this year went, how you're thinking about next year might go, I'd be very happy to have your feedback there as well, as far as conferences or meetings, or was this a valuable experience for you? Those sorts of things. We want to make sure that we're visible. We want to make sure that we're responsive. And of course, we want to make sure that we get good information out to you folks. So once again, thank you very much for being here today. I am going to share my screen Let's see how I want to do that. That's this button and then this button. Okay, so I don't have a lavishly formatted presentation for you today, but I did just want to take a couple moments to walk through some of this information. I thought it was interesting, and I think it also nicely kind of summarizes my impressions of the industry in Florida, and kind of what you might be seeing in response from the extension programming out of IFAS and the research as well. So 23 folks responded to the registration survey today. That's maybe on par to about half of the number of folks that have participated in these meetings. So my goal is roughly about 30, but certainly having a core group of engaged folks is all that's necessary. Again, thank you for coming. Thank you for participating. Interestingly, one of the questions that I asked everybody to respond as far as the registration goes today is I asked you if you harvested hemp this year. Are we targeting hemp farmers? Are there hemp farmers out there that are taking advantage of this information? And although there were 23 of you that described your interest in participating in the meeting today, only 3 of you, what I would think of as a relatively small number of you, harvested hemp this year. So whether or not that's the hemp farmers had their chance to be engaged earlier in the year, this is kind of a end of the year type thing. Let's not make too much of this number. But the takeaway from the discussion today is kind of trying to answer the question, hey, where are the hemp farmers? Back in 2019, 2020, we were running workshops pre-pandemic with a couple hundred participants in person at our events. There are certainly many farmers that were in our first couple meetings this year, but as the kind of work is being tracked across the state, definitely it seems fewer and fewer folks are willing to stay involved in the industry. We'll be sticking around as the university, and that sort of puts us in a position to be responsive to the folks that are out there, the folks that are looking for this information. And so one of those pieces of information that we're trying to capture as university is what are the markets and what are the pathways for hemp in the state of Florida. And so for those of you just chiming in, we're just wrapping up on a brief survey I did for registration, asking folks how many harvested hemp this year, relatively few, asking what folks have been interested in. So flower for processing, flower for direct market, those 7 votes there, I think are sort of accurate to the current industry. Folks that are working on hemp in the state are doing so from primarily a flower market. These are small scale efforts that are being primarily produced through controlled environments. And although it's a small market, there seems to be some narrow opportunities for folks to develop a variety with a specific terpene profile or direct breeder to market kind of contract. These are things that I've heard being successful, particularly with the idea that hemp for flower can be processed at relatively small scales and still make it into a market, given the available product flow. So the other batch of folks, 6 said fiber for processing. I sort of share that kind of post. The flower is well established. If fiber is going to grow in Florida, if the industry is going to grow in Florida, it's probably from the fiber side. And so 2023 was a year where I was anticipating a number of fiber processing facilities to come online. I've continued interaction and engagement with several of those prospective facility owners, facility managers, and we're just kind of waiting at this time for the fundraising to transition into the equipment acquisition and installation into a physical space. Of course, there are a number of folks with the fiber equipment that are running off of trailers as well. And so some of that small scale equipment has been moving around the state. So the makings of a hemp industry in Florida are out there, I think, but relatively uncertain still with where in the state, with how much acreage, and particularly the registration survey, the highest vote here with the 10 folks that don't have a target market or aren't certain what the most interesting market is. And so we still have a lot of getting to know the crop, getting to know the cropping system, getting to know the markets. And so interestingly, and with some excitement, this registration survey for the meeting today was very informative, very helpful to me. Okay. I thank you, Marcos, for your question. I see that on the chat. Any info on hemp project visits? As far as a visit to the research or the industry folks that are maintaining partnerships with the university, I would say that is primarily on a scheduling basis, so case by case basis, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So Marcos, we have research sites and several locations around the state: Homestead, Apopka, Citra, Jay, and there are a couple other sites related to our partners. And so if you're in any of those areas and you'd like to visit, of course, now being the shoulder season, the down season, give us a message. We can reach out at hemp@ifas.ufl.edu, and we'll try to get you there to one of our sites here. I'll put that email in the chat, and we'll get you there. The other half of the page, I wanted to take a moment to walk through. And so it's reverse chronological order, 2023 to 2020. And as I mentioned, hemp is an agricultural commodity that requires regulation and rules at the state level. And so in order to maintain those regulations, a state has to develop a licensing framework. And so these are the summary of permits across the state. So just going column by column, really what you can see pretty clearly is that from 2020, when folks got very excited, I got a piece of paper to put on their wall, a whole bunch of acreage permitted to do this work. The acreage has declined. The number of licenses has declined substantially. So just to clearly articulate what each of these columns are, the number of licenses, that is a business that holds a license. There are some licenses that include multiple different locations. So I have that information as well, the number of unique locations that are permitted, but the trend is relatively similar. We went from something 800, better than 800, back to just short of 500. So there's still a lot of licenses out there, but relatively fewer. Similar with the acreage. Back in 2020, kind of the most active permits at a given time. These are annual renewal licenses, so kind of the numbers are a bit overlapping. It makes the math a little bit more challenging. But if you take in 2020 the most acres that we had permitted at a time, it was 23,000. We're back to 15,000 here in 2023. Again, so wide area, 15,000 acres permitted for hemp cultivation, but far less than what we saw at the beginning of commercialization in 2020. So there's this acreage that is approved for cultivation. That's the acreage under license or the acreage under permit. But in order to harvest your hemp and distribute that into a commercial stream of commerce, then you also have to get a test that matches the threshold for delta 9 tetrahydrocannabinol. So THC less than 0.3% on a certifiable field test that was taken no more than 30 days prior to harvest. So if you've completed that task and your test comes back less than 0.345%, there's a allowance for measurement error. So within that measurement error, you get an approved lot. So again, 277 approved lots from 2020, and we had 2021 with a bit of a higher number. Again, 2022 lower than 2021, but still better than the first year. This year, about a month away from the end of the year, we're at 190 approved lots. So very stark contrast from the beginnings of the industry, 2020, 2021, coming back for approved lots, 190 approved lots. Now, as I mentioned earlier, those lots are exceedingly small. So 190 approved lots for 32 acres. Let me see if I can do that math quickly here. I am going to take 32 and divide it by 190. Yep. So that average is actually about consistent. So the average acreage per approved lot last year was about 0.2 acres on average each lot. This year it seems to be about 0.17. So between 17 and 20% of an acre seems to be that average. Now, of course, there's going to be a particular divergence in the way that folks are reporting. I expect flower harvest to be in the order of hundreds of square feet, but I expect fiber harvest to be in the orders of acres, right? Maybe 5, 10, 100 acres. And so there's an interesting math problem in there. Now, in addition to the industry getting a little bit smaller in terms of number of acres and harvests, we do also see a drop in the lots that are failing. So I haven't quite done these numbers, but my sense is that as folks get more familiar with the permitting, with the harvest, those number of failed lots are going to be getting smaller as well. I'd have to, I don't think it's quite disproportionately smaller, but that's where I'd expect to go. Okay. Okay, thank you, Hannah. I appreciate this comment here. So total THC, delta 9, tetrahydrocannabinol, and correct, and its acid, associated acid. So that's how you get the total THC. It's the delta 9 THC plus the delta 9 THCA. That is correct. Thank you, Hannah, for that detail. So that method of adding the THC and the THCA assumes that it's a liquid chromatography method, which is a way that allows those molecules to be separated in the mass spec procedure. There's also kind of where all of this came from, which is the gas chromatography. And so if you convert the liquid to a gas, then the THCA converts to the THC, and there's kind of the one number there. So just speaking to a little bit how the process came together, where there might be confusion, but certainly all the delta 9 THC as it occurs in the plant, whether it's in the precursor or in the fully established molecule. Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Okay. So this is the part of the meeting where I'm going to just go over my notes with burning questions. I don't see anybody else unmuting their video or raising their hand for a comment. The chat box seems to be working well. So I guess I'm just going to take a deep breath for a moment before I move on. And give anybody else a chance to chime in with a question before I go through the questions, if you'd like. I was supposed to pour myself a beverage before I got started. Okay, so then you just get a chance to see my smiling face today. I didn't prepare any visuals to answer these questions because just the idea of keeping it a little bit more of a dialogue. Again, anybody jump in if you'd like. So the first question, as it comes to me, any common misconceptions or frequently asked questions about regulations? I think sort of a key idea to articulate, as has been the strategy for the UF program, has just been to make sure that folks are aware of the permitting and regulations. I think there's some sort of open questions about the inspections and how those ought to go. Certainly what I've heard is farmers that have been inspected are done so with respect and kindness. These FDAX agents are out there trying to provide information, trying to be a helpful resource. And overall, there seems to be more of a learning opportunity from inspections than kind of being held to misconceptions. Otherwise, the question about cost, sort of which permit is appropriate. So there's difference between cultivation licenses and the food establishments. We talked a little bit about that in last meeting. Some of the kind of preparation for having the multiple different permits that you might need if you do get vertically integrated. If you're a nursery or a seed dealer, that's one type of permit. If you're a cultivation production permit, that's another. If you're working to sell a product for use as a food or topical, those are additional layers. So I would say a kind of overall which permit you need, and then sort of which entity at FDAX you'll need to interact with is kind of that most frequently asked question. Notwithstanding, some of those permits are available for you to fill out sort of in an automated form online, and some of them require you to reach out to someone at FDAX. Another something that I've been hearing regularly is that FDAX has been responsive to folks' calls. I mean, with the information that's available. So sometimes the response is just like the response from UF is unsatisfactory. We don't have enough information, or it's a little bit more of a complicated situation than just where do I go buy seeds. But we're certainly trying to share the information as it comes along. The next question, I'll just continue on. Aside from someone interrupting me, please feel free to do so if you like. Are there courses available at UF for beginner growers who want to produce and harvest hemp? I would say these every other month meeting were kind of this year's version of the course that was available. So give yourself a pat on the back if you were able to participate in all of them throughout the year. If you haven't, then again, those recordings are available, and we'll be taking those video transcripts and writing them up into a written producer's guide this year. So the 2024 course is available is going to be more of a written available piece of information. Then we also had the videos, which you'd be able to review. And in previous years, we've done online training as well. We've put up some videos and discussions and some opportunity to interact with specialists and agents from UF. So those are kind of the courses available from the hemp program. If this was your question, or you are particularly motivated to be in some sort of educational experience for 2024, again, please reach out to us, hemp@ifas.ufl.edu. This coming year, 2024, we're trying to be responsive to individual requests. So to say it in that way, I'm not planning on a large event or regularly occurring activity to bring folks along, we'll be working with folks that are doing the work themselves and trying to get to their space. The way that'll be helpful for them. So please, that feedback will be very helpful to us. You might also keep in mind an event that we've had a few years in a row that I would expect to have again, which is a August time event around Central Florida, the Citra location. We've had a best management practices summit a couple of years in a row. I think that might be an example of an event that we'll be posting. If you are interested in the upcoming materials, hearing from the University of Florida and information that's available related to a course or educational materials, then again, send us an email. Alternately, where I distribute the materials that are new to the program is through the newsletter. So that subscription is available on the Hemp website. Here, let me pull up that events page and the subscription page so I can give you the answer just like that. So it's programs.ifas.ufl.edu/hemp. And then the news page is where you'll find a list, a tab for our newsletter or a tab for our event. So the newsletter tab is where you would go to sign yourself up to get updates via email on the educational materials or the events that are coming out. And then the events page is one of the locations where we have the videos stored from these meetings and other meetings that we've had or other seminars that we've provided. Okay. So that's kind of like the question that came up a number of different ways. I just read one, but there were folks that are like info on starting up, how to grow hemp well. That's a good question. Should I consider growing hemp? I would say these are all questions that are meant to be addressed by the hemp program more broadly. So if you're asking yourselves these questions, then I recommend you reach out either to me, to the hemp program, or perhaps what might be more helpful is to reach out to your county extension agent. The county offices are very knowledgeable about hemp. We've provided information out to the county offices so they at least have the background knowledge. The extra piece of information and insight that you'd get from them is, hey, is anybody doing it well in the county? In your zone of Florida, in your markets of Florida, the county agents are paying attention to the industries, to the work that's going on out there. So you have sort of three options, right? You can pose a question into our educational coordinators at Hemp at IFAS. You can reach out to me. You can reach out to the county offices. You can go onto our website. I just put that link there, programs.ifas.ufl.edu/hemp. That's where the abundance of information that's available. We have a number of documents that are meant to target folks that are getting started. What farmers should know before planting hemp is a great document on our resource. The background of hemp and the uses of hemp are educational materials just to give you a sense of the plant's botany, the plant's agronomy, as you're thinking about the different cropping systems that you might be choosing for growing hemp. As far as how to grow hemp well in Florida, I think the UF program and many others have shown that hemp can grow well in Florida. The how-to is certainly a nuanced discussion. We've tried to address some of that with our nutrient management recommendations that should be coming out soon. But of course, the farm planning document, kind of that framework that I've provided to the group earlier on in this year, that's a great place to start as well for you, just to see if you have an answer to all of those questions, or if you're still looking to collect some information, still looking to make some decisions. Should I consider growing hemp? This is one of those questions that puts me in a box as far as my job. I'm not exactly supposed to answer that question, so I've gotten real good at the rhetoric over the last few years of how to answer that question without exactly answering that question. You see, I just rolled on a while there. What I would like to say is just speaking to the experience, right? That we have demonstrated, again, in a number of ways, hemp can grow well. We've also listed in a number of different ways, nearly across the entire cropping system, from accessing seeds to land preparation to management features to harvest to market. Without the seeds, without the market, it makes it really hard for us to say, go ahead and consider hemp. Also, as a university policy, I am not supposed to recommend hemp because of its potential to escape from cultivation and be an invasive species. So as far as not answering that question, I'm able to provide a number of information from all the different sides, how to develop a environmental containment plan to be respectful of that risk for escape from cultivation, where there might be a narrow edge on the markets. Certainly working with folks to try out that fiber to get that at scale, tens of thousands of acres probably for a well-utilized processing facility. And so I think there's some groundswell there of interest. And you got to be aligned with someone there. One more piece of information to share is the economics that we conducted this year. We did report on some of those earlier on in the year. We have those documents being reviewed by our extension publication journal. And it's not a rosy picture. There are some conditions under which farmers can make some money growing hemp, but it does seem to be very much up against those margins with the cost of production up against the challenges in the market. So that's my answer there. So another question that came, I don't have an answer for this question either, but I wanted to at least speak it out into the meeting to give folks an idea that I am supportive of this question of an initiative just like this. So someone asked as part of burning question for the year, what about that funding for leadership in agriculture for Black, Latino, women farmers, those folks that have been marginalized or underserved. Of course, that's a key aspect of the mission here at IFAS, is being available to the public broadly, to folks in the industry broadly. I have sort of been doing that deliberately, making sure that folks that reach out to me from any corner of the state get a response. There is a grant that I'm on with the intent to get out to these communities through the USDA NRCS Climate Smart Ag projects. That is a project that is funded through Florida A&M University. So the University of Florida is partners with that. And currently we are waiting for the USDA and FAMU to complete contracting negotiations. So I've got my ear to the ground, excited to meet folks that would see themselves as a participant in that, adopting fiber crop with conservation ag practices, the climate smart, the carbon farming. So that's a big portion of my program research wise and extension wise going forward. And I'd be happy to continue that discussion going on. Okay, I don't see any other, I keep glancing over at the chat window. Otherwise, I'm rolling on. There's a lot of content to cover. Thank you, everybody, for your questions. I covered this in a little bit in my last question. So revenues generated by crop, whether it's in the greenhouse, whether it's in the field. Again, those numbers are under review currently and will be coming out soon, hopefully early 2024. The difference in concept is that the hemp for flower has a higher capital requirement, so it costs more but it can also be the crop that gets you more. And so the numbers of 2019 and 2020 are no more. Folks aren't making $10,000, $20,000, $40,000 an acre. There are some folks that are making similar margins at small scale. Given the opportunity to sell into direct market, sell into a high quality flower market. Again, making those numbers match so that you're getting as much out of it as you put into it as a challenge. Between greenhouse and the field, most folks are doing controlled environments there. I think it comes into the crop quality. So how do you make sure that you have good trichomes? How do you keep them from the worms? How do you keep them from the mold and the fungus? Seems to be the controlled environment. Also, how do you get flower when you want it? That's the lighting cost for augmenting the day length of natural light. And so additional costs for moving into a greenhouse, but also you get the control, you get the better assurance perhaps on your crop. Out in the field, again, some folks have been able to make it work. At the field, it comes down to scale. You're probably going more into a processing market for flower than you are a direct market, but maybe there's some good flower out there in the field in order for you to cut off. That becomes a labor issue. Perhaps there's a labor issue indoors as well. Well, really, I'm sure there's labor issues indoors as well, but in the field, trying to cover a 5-acre plot of land that's all flowered at the same time. To harvest it before it exceeds threshold and gets the worms and the fungus. That's an extra cost in there. The field for the grain and the fiber, those pieces of equipment can be unique. Having a silage baler, having a sickle bar mower, or the combine that includes that robust equipment, those units there, that can be initial investment, but then relatively low cost of seeds, relatively low cost of maintenance, relatively low cost of sales on the other side, right? The seeds and the fiber aren't at demand yet, aren't really at scales to compete with all of the reasons why hemp went out of fashion 100 years ago. We've got the synthetic fibers. We've got all manner of other seeds that are available for nutrition, for oils, for proteins. I think there's remains an opportunity. I try to stay optimistic, cautiously, but that's kind of the reality of the economics so far. Another probing and thoughtful question people keep asking over and over. Okay, Michael, I see your question here. Let me see if I can address that. Clones versus seed certifications for growing in Florida. I also know seeds must be certified. Can we bring in clones related to the ayahuasca? Okay, thank you, Michael. Nice to hear from you. We should really get caught up here. Glad to see you're still here, and hopefully if you are still in the county, we'll make an opportunity to visit soon. So the question of seed certification, of clone certification, has not been updated since the pilot project days. So this is an interesting one where we're in the middle, kind of the sunset of pilot project phase and what happens next for the state of Florida. So seed certification and clone certification from a pilot project program was specific to testing for the total THC in these plants, and doing so ahead of cultivation in the state of Florida. And so before commercial cultivation, university would have to receive a seed lot or a clone and go put that through a 12-week grow cycle, sort of a regulatory detail, and then take the THC test and confirm or deny the compliance as hemp less than 0.3% Delta 9 THC. The UF program took on the perspective of clones. We felt like a clone can be a little bit more stable year to year. Felt like that was a very specific plant identity. So UF had put together a program to certify those clones. We could sort of, we would have to revive that program. There was a kind of, I wouldn't say necessarily lack of interest, but lack of submissions to that program. And so there was kind of a minimum number of varieties that the faculty at UF that was running that program was hoping to have in order to do that. We have all of that in place. We have that structure. That is something we could consider reviving at UF, depending on the number of clones that you're interested in passing through, depending on the others in the industry that might be able to help with that. That is specific to the clone, that is specific to the state's certified law and regulation. My understanding is that AOSCA certification or pilot project approval is necessary. Lacking pilot projects remaining in order to do that approval, then AOSCA is what remains. We've talked this through a few times. That said, it seems sort of at a state level, from the regulatory perspective, what's most important is that there is documentation that both the material that the hemp clone or the hemp seed came from was certified as less than 0.3% THC, or the material leaving the farm having been harvested makes that same designation. So here I am sort of talking around the situation again, as it's a bit nuanced, it's a bit regulatory, but this sort of barrier is certainly one that Florida ought to be grappling with. How do we get farmers the material that's compliant and available in enough quantity in order to scale up the industry? So that's what I have to say about that. Thank you for the question. It's a critically important one for Florida, notwithstanding sort of how do we deal with experimental genetics? How do we deal with research going forward under compliance of the state hemp program? Those are questions that I have for the university as well as the industry going forward. So thanks for the question. So the question about seeds and genetic supply sort of follows from that, related to what I got from the internet survey. And so I found genetics. We found genetics, the University of Florida and the other universities and the farmers in Florida have found genetics that work here. Because the genetics are variable enough, it seems as though you kind of got to find a genetic and then you've got to match your system to it. We've given the box around what a cropping system will look like, but of course it has to be fine-tuned to any of the genetics. Access to genetics is something that I struggle with every year. And so I hear from others the same. So one of the things we've tried to do this year is to try to put some folks in touch with others, trying to do that, the assist of networking. So if you have genetics and you want to get them out to others, let us know. We'll, share with you some contacts of folks that are asking. If you're asking, we have been trying to share a list of folks that are interested in developing those partnerships. So that's kind of where I am with the genetics, working with some breeding programs, working with some seed and plant suppliers around the state, around the country. This is a major barrier for hemp across the country, globally. And so getting access to a stable seed supply is very much one of those anchor points for scaling up on a fiber market, scaling up on a flower market. More of that discussion to have kind of case by case, or if we were to be able to bring together a community of farmers, a community of seed dealers, the hemp community, to have this discussion, I'd be very happy to facilitate that. So the next question is an interesting one also. What harsh growth conditions have the plant been tested in Florida? This is kind of a fun one for me as a scientist. I'm very curious about the extreme bounds of plants and their survival of plants and their productivity. So this has been a focus of the research program over the last several years. And so the harsh growth conditions are abundant. Let me see if I can think of some. Well, the El Nino year, of course, this year had us working with some of the hottest temperatures we've experienced. And so we had a chance to see the plant grow through a hot year like that. Of course, hot and humid brings along the pests and the diseases. Flooding is probably one of the most rapid of harsh conditions. So flooding less than 24 hours can pose major delays in growth. Flooding less than 29 hours, 30 hours, you get into the 36 and 48 hours, you probably lose the plant for the flooding event. So we've shown that, documented that. Weeds have been a trouble. Let's see, what other harsh growing conditions have we tested? Just to maybe not the way that we think about harsh, but Florida's light environment, the length of day is not a great match for the majority of genetics that we've seen here in Florida that originated in northern latitudes, Canada, Europe. And so those genetics kind of act like it's harsh because they don't have the cue delayed to flower, and so they'll flower within a couple weeks of planting. So just a few examples environmentally of conditions that we've seen. What's the time limit required to burn post-harvest? That's actually a question that I don't have a direct answer to you. I believe the way that it's written in the language is immediately. We have some a little bit of latitude from the university to delay destruction of material, but I believe you have sort of the period with which you can petition or remediate the crop. So you get your test back and it shows hot. You can choose to remove some of the plant material. You can choose to harvest or remove the plants and the flowers. I'm not familiar with all of the language, but in Florida, there's basically an opportunity to get a retest out of FDACs. There's an opportunity to strip the highest concentration areas from the plant. And so kind of in that period of time, I guess, is the delay or the potential time limit before you burn your crop. So, okay, it's been flagged as non-compliant. What are the next steps? Well, one of the next steps can be going right to destruction immediately. The other options can be to go through a retesting or a remediation step that could give you some time prior to burning a non-compliant crop. Of course, there are other destruction methods available, terminating with mechanical or chemical means, burying the crop in addition to the burn. Okay, pathways for sustainability and innovation. That's just an interesting one to me to speak on because primarily that aligns with the goals here of the UF Hemp program. The sustainability is specifically one of the aspects of the work that I do here out of IFAS through agroecology. Very much interested in kind of working through management practices that can contribute to conservation or contribute to environmental sustainability, along with the economic sustainability of the industry. thinking deeply about how there might be opportunity to generate some revenue through conservation programs for implementation of practices such as conservation tillage, strip tillage, no-till, limiting fertilizer applications, planting cover crops. These are all sorts of aspects of crop management that have been articulated by various programs. The payments for doing those activities don't quite match with the cost of them currently, but sort of selfishly, I'm very much interested in pushing that envelope, trying to get those sustainability practices embedded into hemp cropping systems, and certainly ones that are economically viable as well. From the perspective of innovation, I think I have been discussing broadly where those avenues are. The innovation happening out of UF-IFAS is coming from the crop production and cultivation side of things. How do you grow a quality hemp crop, and how do you do so across the state while being mindful of environmental impacts, of regulatory challenges, those sorts of things. That's been our kind of avenue of innovation. Now, access to seeds that are available for Florida, that genetic innovation, those plant multiplication and seed distribution, those sorts of things, that innovation on that side, and the innovation on the other side. How do you take a quality hemp raw material and develop it into a marketable product? So those sort of other sides, the bookends of the situation, is where I've been calling for partners, industry, university partners. Hey, folks, I am the cropping systems specialist here, the agroecologist. I need good quality seeds and I need a market kind of squeezed in the middle, looking for innovation on both sides. So that's kind of the way that I'll respond to that question. Okay, let's see. Okay, yeah, Michael. You mentioned the question about remediation, heavy metals, using hemp to do that sort of thing. We have a couple folks at IFAS as well working on those, particularly from the perspective of controlled environments. I guess to circle back to the courses available, if you are an indoor hemp farmer and you're very much interested in the sort of container grown hydroponics, controlled environment type thing, there is a very good controlled environment course available online at IFAS, not specific to hemp, but certainly relevant. Innovation, to return to innovation, back on that sustainability side of things. Can this plant be used to pull up phosphorus, other nutrients? Can it be used to pull up heavy metals? There has been proof of concept. I haven't seen a lot of work to scale it up. And Michael, thank you for the comment. Would be happy to link up with you and those folks from Penn State. Certainly been working with scientists across the country for a USDA supported effort. Some of my colleagues there at Penn State as well. Happy to have the conversation. Okay. Now, this topic related to innovation, related to how do we scale up an industry, just mostly said that in order to do the fiber, we're talking about large quantities of material to go through a processing facility at capacity. And so this is the chicken or the egg situation we're at with the industry. We need co-investment. That I think that's sort of the most clear way to say sort of where we are in fiber industry. We need co-investment from the seed dealers. We need co-investment from the farmers to get up to acreage, and genuinely, we need that motivation and investment from the fiber processing facilities. Some folks are talking about 50 acres of hemp a day to go through their fiber processing facility. I've sort of worked up a number of different numbers that sort of matches 10,000 acres a year in order to kind of just get get the industry started on a processing facility. So just to point out that that's one of those necessary avenues of innovation. It becomes an economic challenge, an adoption challenge at this point. The socio-political impact and hindrance to growth of hemp and development of hemp product markets. I think some of that goes back to how do we develop the industry here, the communities of practice, the leaders of those communities. And so therein lies, again, just the way that I'm laying out my 2024 is to sort of get in there with the social and the political folks that are trying to make this work, being able to tell the story of their challenges, trying to do what we can from the university perspective to help develop the education of those networks, to assist with the main challenges. Really, that feedback loop in extension is critical. To say that this in a different way, the social and political aspect of this industry is codified in law. And so it makes it particularly kind of interesting and challenging and detailed sort of effort, right? So I am not able to lobby or be an advocate specifically from the perspective of industry in Tallahassee or Washington, D.C., but I can certainly speak as a content expert with the observations that I've made. I mentioned sort of the potential rule making aligned with experimental genetics and research in the state. That can certainly come from folks that are motivated politically to have that conversation. There is also kind of the issue that I'll bring up in a moment, sort of how are the products being regulated and sold? How are individuals and companies being permitted and supported to do these things? Those are happening at a regional and county level. And so having those conversations there is sort of a next step to the work here at UF. Similarly, where to market hemp, right? I don't have an answer for you. I'm not allowed to have an answer, but I'd certainly like to put you in touch with folks that are asking the same questions or might have an answer to you. So figuring out where we're going to have that conversation. In some ways, I thought that we were going to be able to do that on these calls, these bi-monthly informational meetings. Other than invited guests that I had, I thought that worked very well in the beginning of the year. And certainly there were some folks asking good questions, but we didn't necessarily have the hallway or the kind of water cooler type discussion where if you're looking to sell some seeds or you're looking to buy some seeds, you have a chance to run into someone in the hallway. So we'll be trying to do better with that this year. If you're a marketplace, if you are someone who's looking to organize a group of farmers, please reach out. You are a main target for us in the coming year. Well, thanks, Jeff, Dr. Block, for the question. I'm just getting into the section of my notes to answer your question, so we'll at least start one. What I have here to start this section, this last segment of my talking to you today, I was going to say discussion. Some of it's worked out that way with the questions in the chat. So cannabinoids and health products efficacy. So what's going on with that? What's the situation with flower processing to isolate CBD and synthesize it into Delta 8? What's going on with those products being sold in Florida? And how might that relate to testing compliance to the industry? So there is a growing body of evidence that cannabinoids can be helpful to public health, can be helpful to someone's individual health. that these products are useful in some way. And of course, that's playing out with the products that are available on the open market. Perhaps if you extend that into the medical marijuana treatment centers for THC, for CBD, there are growing clinical trials and the sort of other sorts of information that would need to be required in order to get to a clinical trial. Primarily like symptom remediation from the science as it's going, the pain, the muscle spasms, right? The first FDA approved cannabinoid product is a suspended CBD, the Epidiolex. So that evidence is growing. Folks have all manner of other focal points from the perspective of other minor cannabinoids or the flavonoids and the terpenes. Of course, the one that is getting the most attention these days is the Delta 8 THC, which found its way into some of the Florida hemp food regulations that were passed earlier on in the year. Now, Delta 8 THC can be found occurring in a hemp plant. However, with relation to the amount of Delta 9 THC that's produced, Delta 8 is sometimes non-detectable. There's so little of it, it's not detectable from our instruments. When it is detectable, it's detected in very small to trace elements. So how do we have a whole bunch of Delta 8 products available in Florida for purchase at the grocery store and the gas station? Well, sort of the question that Jeff poses here is that primarily those Delta 8 compounds are being synthesized from CBD that's hemp derived. And so that is not exactly a clean process. There can be Delta 8, there can be Delta 10, there can be all sorts of other products to that. So what's going on with that quality of product? What's going on with that testing? And this just kind of happens to be the cart before the horse sort of situation where an industry gets forward, the regulators figure out what it's going to be like, the regulators make a change, the industry makes a change, the regulators make a change, the industry makes a change in that sort of way. The Delta 8 happens to be something that's at least seen as a recreational product. And as Dr. Block mentions, it is certainly a synthetic, and it's certainly a designer drug, one that's trying to get ahead of the regulation. So I just personally, professionally, try to caution folks from using products that aren't well labeled, that don't have good tests along with them, third-party tests that show clear of adulterations and other things. So that's kind of where it stands with the Delta 8 and the products. Be happy to sort of share the education related to that. Perhaps the colleagues from the UF Pharmacy or the Marijuana Consortium might have a better voice to speak to some of the health challenges related to the Delta 8. From a production side, it's like one of those opportunities available to farmers. They get to sell their hemp flower and sort of and do so to as a feed stock for the Delta 8 market. Of course, I'm not here to tell you how to do business, but certainly I'd be cautious there with personally with those synthetics. That's my list. I made it through these burning questions for the year. I was excited to see them because they nicely aligned with the things that I've been thinking of, the areas that I think the hemp program here at UF ought to go. So maybe just to be inviting to anybody, do you have another question? Or would you like to share with us just briefly, maybe 2 or 3 minutes, how your 2023 has has gone, or the way that you'd like your 2024 to go. So I'll open the floor for a few minutes to folks, if you like. Otherwise, thanks again, everybody, for participating, and we'll look forward to getting you some information over the coming year. Would anybody like to share or ask another question?
Hey, Zach.
Hi, Robert.
Hey, just first of all, thank you so much throughout this year. I've really enjoyed it. So thank you for putting this on. I hope next year we get
Okay,
of the same, but
great.
really nice information all year. I'm an inspector, a hemp inspector down here around Manatee County. I have about 5 counties. One thing that I've seen, and you've touched on this kind of today a lot, I just have a lot of farmers and even a couple of buyers that are looking for Florida grown hemp flower. But as a government employee, I can't share
Hmm.
personal information. So like you were talking about, sell these farmers want to sell into a high quality market. So is there a good resource that I can direct them to? Kind of just the best resource in your opinion that I can direct them to so these people can kind of connect.
Um, I'd like to have a resource, but I don't. So it remains a good question. The way that I'm answering the question right now, would be to, you're getting this question, repeated. So what I'm trying to say is, if each time that question's repeated to you, I sort of also have a chance to connect with that individual, that'll give me the chance to put all those folks together, right? So I have a little bit more flexibility to share information if someone authorizes me to do so. And so that's kind of where I'm at with the year. Hey, there's folks over here with like contact information. Hey, there's folks over here that are okay with sharing their contact information. And I've been trying to put folks together in that way. Maybe what you point to is like there could be an opportunity for a public, that's not what I'm trying to say, a private entity to do that in public, right? Sort of some clearinghouse, an industry group, someone who says like, this is a real need for the industry. I'm here to help folks get in touch. The point that I've been making is I have a couple of those sort of contacts that I can funnel folks through, but I don't mind also doing it out in the open. So just to, pose the point, as a group of folks come together, we're looking for a marketplace. That gives me the chance to say, hey, look, there's a group of folks looking for a marketplace. That might be what I need to either open one up, from the perspective of a processing facility, or to give them a chance to connect.
Thank you.
Sure. Anybody else? Hey, Mickey, I see you unmuted your screen. You got here just at the end of what we were talking about. Did you want to say something, or just showing us your smile? You're muted, but I think you said just your smile. All right. Well, once again, I'll say thank you, everybody, for your participation this year. I included the email in for the hemp program in the chat, hemp@ifas.ufl.edu. Also, a link to our written resources and video recordings, programs.ifas.ufl.edu/hemp. This has been a very engaged group over the course of the year, and I've enjoyed that. I've sort of seen a number of folks that I hope to catch up with individually, and you're all welcome to reach out as we sort of look to get some adoption and some scale to the industry come 2024. So I hope everybody has enjoyed their holidays. And oh, okay, Sam, I wandered around the conversation just long enough to give you a chance to post something in the chat. Oh, yeah, that is off topic. the kratom or the kava being grown. I would say not at a large commercial setting, but certainly folks are interested, and certainly it's one of those crops to get into cautiously, given some of the product and the health issues. But you reach out to me, Sam. We can certainly chat afterwards. Thank you, Marcos. Appreciate you being here regularly. Nice seeing you again. And thank you, everybody. Oh, can you repeat the email? Sure. hemp@ifas.ufl.edu. And then the website programs.ifas.ufl.edu/hemp. Thank you, everybody. I'll stick around just for a couple of minutes in case someone wants to catch my ear. But with that, I close the meeting and say thank you once more. Happy holidays. Happy New Year. Thank you.
Greedy the cat also says Happy New Year.
Thank you, Mickey. We got to catch up soon.
Yeah. Greedy, what are you doing, Kit Kat? What are you doing?